It is my honor today to share a story with you. And the story that I'll share with you today is not a story of a hero. It is not the story of a protagonist. I will share the story of a supporting actor for you. I will share the story that I have written in my last 25 years of my life with this. Can you all recognize what this is? This is a piece of chalk. And I just wanted to share with you, first time I taught in my life, I taught on a blackboard with a piece of chalk. This was the beginning of my journey. And today I want to share the hidden journey that a teacher undergoes, which is probably not talked about because we always talk about the protagonist, we always talk about the heroes, we never talk about the supporting actors. When I started my journey, I started just like you. In my MBBS and in my MD, I was always a top ranker. I was always a top ranker, and I thought that having knowledge is good enough to be a teacher. I thought that I know it all because I was always topping the exams. I was always getting a single-digit rank. I thought, it should be a cakewalk. Can you smell the arrogance of a student? That is the first fault line I wanted you to see. The first fault line that as an individual I had was that when you're a student, you are reading knowledge, you're accumulating knowledge, and we think, it is so easy. And I started to teach 25 years back. And when I started to teach, I thought it would be cakewalk. Can you imagine you're a rank holder boy and it should be so easy. And I'm teaching to students and I could see it on their face that they are not able to make it, they are not able to understand. I'm sure, if you have been on the stage before, you will resonate. Whenever you are on the stage, you look out in the audience for someone who is nodding the head. You want someone to say, yes, I am able to understand. So when I'm teaching for the first time, I'm looking at the audience and I'm looking at the students that someone should look, maybe that, give me some encouragement, maybe with their body language. And then I realized that, they were not able to follow a lot of things. Maybe I was assuming a lot of things. I was talking about MRI physics, T1 weighted images, T2 weighted images, and maybe they were not able to follow. During the lecture, I started to understand that my role as a teacher is not just to give them information. It is to simplify the information. And I started thinking in my mind that I need to convert what I know into simple language. And I tried to explain things in more simple language. And that is where your own gaps in understanding get exposed. When you try to explain something in simple language, things that you have not understood as a student, your own self, they start getting exposed. And I would go back home and then read about those things that, okay, this is something that I could not explain in simple words because I have not fully understood it. I would go back to see the pathophysiology of the disease, why behind it, why it is happening, so that I can explain better in the next class. Every class I would come back, and next class I'll come back stronger. And I often tell jokingly, and I actually seriously to many of my students, that in the initial few years as a teacher, it is the students who teach the teacher, not the other way around. We believe that we are teaching you, but actually we are learning from you because you expose what we don't know, and I have to go back and work for it. I call it the filling up of your own gaps in understanding when you try to explain something in simple language. To explain something in simple language, you need to yourself understand it fully. And that is when you become a good teacher. And that is where my journey as a teacher began. And I started teaching well, and I was teaching well, but I started feeling that maybe I am giving information. Maybe I am giving knowledge. But I don't want you to only have the knowledge, I want the students to think. And I was, always groping around in 25 years back and thinking, okay, how to make them think? I'm telling you something, but how to make you think? And one day in my class, I did a small experiment. And that small change changed about everything about what I do in my life. That small change was, I'll show it to you practically. I will demonstrate the change practically to you. I will teach you a line in two methods. First, I will tell you directly the information. I want you to appreciate an answer if you are able to answer. First, my direct line that I will say to you is, ultrasound is the investigation of choice in children when we suspect acute appendicitis. This is direct information giving. That day, many years back when I was teaching, I thought this is not the right approach. And I changed my approach to converting what I'm telling to asking you, pause, tell. And that day, I started teaching like this. I said, now I'll ask you a question and I want you to think on the side. So you have to tell me, what do you think you will do as an investigation if a child comes to you with right iliac fossa pain? What will you do as an investigation if a child comes to you with right iliac fossa pain? Now there is no information. There is a question put to you. Now when a question is put to you, you are, tell me, thinking. Now you're thinking, why right iliac fossa pain? And many of you might be first year MBBS students, second year MBBS, you're thinking, maybe that is where you have the appendix. And pain is a sign of inflammation. Maybe acute appendicitis has happened. And the question is, what should you do? Now you're thinking. And when you're thinking, your learning is happening. This is what you will remember for life, not the information that we are giving you. And I stumbled upon this small phenomena called as pause. It is a small idea, but it became very profound in my life. I went back and I told my initial bunch of teachers that from here onwards, I took a chalk, I took a board, and I wrote on that board, ask, pause, tell. And I told all my teachers that here onwards, we will try to teach with this philosophy of ask, pause, tell. And suddenly the magic started to happen. We started at a single center in Delhi and we ultimately ended up opening centers all over India. We, last 25 years, have taught more than 1 million students. We started our mobile app, again, more than 1 million students joined the mobile app. And the philosophy is simple. Ask, pause, tell. And I actually jokingly tell my wife also sometimes that this pause has helped me in my personal relationships also. Anytime, idea is thrown to me or something, attack is thrown to me, I don't react. I pause. During that pause, you have that thinking happening and you make a better judgment. If you react, you will do a mistake. I told this pause to many students appearing for the exam also. I said, do not answer the question immediately. Pause. Don't react. Don't let your amygdala answer. Let your cognitive brain take over. Answer with the pause. Pause was the biggest change in my life. Then I started traveling across the country to teach. I started traveling to different states, different colleges, different cities, and teaching many students over the years. Over the years, when I was teaching, during the break, some students would come to me, and they would come with a doubt. I vividly remember one of the times when I was teaching MRI, a student came to me with a doubt, and his doubt of MRI physics was excellent. His doubt was so deep that I have never even seen a resident doctor ask that doubt. It was very high quality doubt. And I asked him, Beta, how are you able to think so deeply? I think you will do very well in life. You're a deep thinker. I'm very impressed by you. You're a deep thinker. And immediately that student became confused. He said, sir, I am from a peripheral college. I belong to a peripheral city. And I'm not a topper of my college. Do you think I can do well? And I looked at him and I again told him the same thing. That ordinary people cannot think of this doubt. When I was your age, I could not have even fathomed this kind of deep thinking. You're doing well, and I'm sure you will do well in life. I forgot about it. 2-3 years later, I was looking at the YouTube videos of the toppers, and I saw that boy in one of the who had topped one of the exams. And in his interview, he was telling about this incident. In his interview, he was telling that once I was in a class and my teacher told me that I'll do well. And that day, he said that that day his self-belief built up and he started believing in himself. It stuck me somewhere. And that day I realized that my role as a teacher is not only to tell you information, not only to make you think, my role is also to tell you the possibility that you are ignoring. My role as a teacher is also to see the possibility that the student himself is not able to see. I went back and that day I discovered a word in English called as mentor. I realized that what is the difference between a teacher and a mentor? A teacher teaches, a mentor sees the possibility. And thereafter I thought, it is not only my duty only to teach, my duty is also to see the possibility. Every time I meet someone now, it's become my life. Every time I meet someone, a youngster who I feel is doing something good, For example, I met the organizers of this event. Hey, he said, sir, I am an ordinary student. I said, no, ordinary people don't organize events. You have something in you. I know it is my duty to tell them that they have something inside them. And that is what mentorship means. I kept on traveling, kept on teaching on online, offline. I kept on teaching. I kept doing this for, I'm still doing it for the last 25 years. During those 25 years, many times when I was taking a lecture, after the lecture, some students would come to meet me and say, sir, one day I want to be like you. Initially, when you hear this line from a student, that one day I want to be like you, it's flattering. You feel happy about it. Like somebody wants to be like you, it's flattering. But when you hear it twice, you start feeling the pressure. That if somebody wants to be like me, I need to be worth becoming. I need to be that kind of a person that he wants to be. And I started feeling that pressure that, okay, now I need to do something, better than what I'm doing right now. I started to do what I'm speaking. For example, if I tell my students, do your 100% in your exam, I would side by side do my 100% in my life. I would do my 100% in every domain of my life because this is what I'm telling them to do. I can't tell them to do what I'm not doing myself. And then, you start being more and more, I can't tell them to be enthusiastic, positive about the world if I'm negative about it. So I started to subconsciously walking the talk. I started to, do what I want them to do without telling. And later on, probably I realized that this is the evolution of a teacher. As a teacher, you evolve from someone who's giving the knowledge, someone who's mentoring, to someone who's teaching by his life. You become a role model. Somehow you are trying to teach through your life, not only through your words, not only through your writing, you're also trying to teach through your life. And that is what, it tells me that, I have to be a better human being every single day. And that is what keeps me positive. And I feel that, you draw that energy from the students. If they say they want to be like you, that means, I have to be worth that. I reach every of my lecture 15 minutes before time. Because I cannot be a bad role model. I cannot be not on time. I have to be on time. I have to dress properly. I can't be not shaven if I tell them that, this is the world you have to live in. I have to do what I want them to do. This is what I learned. I went on with life. I am, still struggling to find out what is the meaning of life. Just like you, I don't know what is the purpose of life. I'm too young to actually find out, what are we meant to do on the planet. Only thing that I've discovered so far is that we all need to find something that really makes our soul tick. We have to find something that makes us excited, something that makes us feel alive, something that makes us, ignites the fire inside us. And then if you really like doing something, time will stop mattering. You will not look at the time, you will not look at the clock. If you find that zone, make it your mission, make it your mission, make it your life. Because we don't know what else is the purpose of life. So I need to do something that really makes me feel alive. The first day I took the chalk in my hand to teach on a blackboard, I felt alive. I still feel alive when I'm teaching. So I made it my mission to teach. I don't know what else is there in my life. I don't know what is the purpose, but I still feel this makes me most alive. This makes me feel most purposeful. And I wanted to tell you that when I was initially teaching, that was before the era of Facebook and Instagram. After my first or second batch of teaching, a student sent a letter. Letter, at that time, you had to post it, put a postage stamp, write it, not like, SMS and WhatsApp. You actually written a letter with a postage stamp, and he sent that letter to my office address. And the letter said, sir, if you give a man fish, you will feed them only for once. If you teach them how to fish, you feed them for life. And so this has been your impact on my life. This changed me totally. I learned that teaching is not just about writing on the blackboard. It goes beyond. It goes into shaping futures, shaping careers, shaping lives. And if I now look back at my own life and think, what is the duty of a teacher? If I try to put it in one line, I think duty of a teacher is to see the possibility, ignite the possibility in the student while silently continuing to learn himself. Thank you very much. This is your teacher. Thank you.